So let's get started. So to start off, what is DocuSign? So basically, it's just a digital platform, and they actually have a bunch of different programs that they offer. But DocuSign e-signature, specifically the one we're going to talk about today, and the one that we will use mostly. I've never used any of their other services personally. And then there's two types of accounts. There's free account and a licensed account. So the difference between those two, the free account, you don't need to have a membership or like a paid membership or anything. You just sign up with your email address. The caveat there is you can sign an unlimited amount of documents. So if someone is sending you documents that need to be signed with a free account, that's fine. There's no limit on that. But if you need to send documents to be signed by someone else, the free account becomes a little tricky because you have a limit of basically only 3 documents that you're allowed to sign. So if you're sending them very frequently, like I am, and like most of you are probably as DAs and DRs, you're going to want that licensed account. My understanding is that most of us probably already have a licensed account, but if for some reason you don't, just talk to your supervisor. They can get into contact with campus IT, with our IT group and get you guys a licensed account. And then of course, like myself personally and Jonah and like our team started using DocuSign before COVID and everything happened, just in an effort to be more environmentally friendly and to be more efficient, not have to like walk documents around. But obviously now that we're all remote, it's a lot easier this way. And this is kind of the only way to get documents signed. So it worked out. So how can you use DocuSign? You can use it to obtain e-signatures or other information on a variety of documents. There is a feature to create a template, which I'll go over briefly a little later, but do note that the template feature isn't available automatically to everyone. It's like a special feature that IT needs to turn on for you. Most of us probably won't use it. I personally don't really use the template feature hardly. But if for some reason you come to a point where the way it works is if it's a document where the document itself isn't going to change, but the people that you need to send it to will change, like maybe you have a list of 30 people that you need to send the exact same document to, but you need to send it to them individually. That's where a template comes into play, because basically DocuSign will memorize all the like fillable fields that you had already dropped in and save it. That way you don't have to redo the document every time you send it. So like I said, I'll touch on it briefly a little later, but if templates are something you want like more information about, you can just reach out to me separately. You can track the status of send documents. So obviously DocuSign will track and let you know like who's viewed it, who signed it, who hasn't signed it. And then you can store your completed documents in DocuSign. So that kind of is helpful too if you don't necessarily, I personally still save all of the DocuSign signed documents to like a file on my computer, but theoretically speaking, you don't need to do that because DocuSign will retain them there and you can view them there through your account. So just the very basics, and again, I'll kind of show you and walk you through all of this, but you upload a document to a new envelope. So when you hear me use the term envelope, it's basically what you're sending to someone else. So think of it like an actual, like, snail mail. You send an envelope with documents inside of it. It's the same idea. This is like a digital envelope, and you can do one document or you can do multiple documents in a single envelope. You're going to assign signers to that envelope. There can be one or multiple. And then you drop the email message that goes to that signer or signers. You're going to add the applicable fields to the document. You just kind of drop them in there, and then you send the document, and then you just await the signing confirmation email. So DocuSign will email you and let you know, hey, so-and-so has signed this document. And then helpful features that DocuSign does have that make it nice. The documents can be accessed via computer or using the DocuSign mobile app. So you can download the app to your phone and sign there. I believe it also just through like a web browser on your phone. I think they just recently announced that feature, that they've like updated the way the documents look, so it should be easier. So like us personally, that's been helpful because we have a lot of operational staff that are out in the field and they may not have access to a computer, but they have access to like their mobile phone, like their work phone, so they're able to access the documents that way. The use of the required feature, so I'll kind of explain that a little later, but there's the option to make a field required, and basically that will make sure that the signer cannot complete the document without filling in that area. So kind of prevents error. Like, I don't know if you've ever had someone fill out a form in person or physically, and they might like forget one area, and then you're like, oh, you forgot to sign this. Well, with DocuSign, that doesn't happen, because as long as you make it required, the system will not let them finish the document until they add that required piece. You can send signing reminders directly through DocuSign. So there's a couple different categories in your account, and one of them you can track documents that are still like pending, either multiple signatures if multiple signatures are needed on the document, or just one. And you can send a reminder directly through DocuSign, like, hey, you haven't signed this yet, make sure you sign it. Multiple role options are available in addition to a signer. So again, I'll go over what that means a little later, but basically you can assign someone to sign the document, but you can also assign someone to review the document or to receive a copy of the document, things like that. And there are reports available to track metrics on like the amount of documents you've sent. There's also like a cool little feature that'll show you like you saved this many pounds of paper and this many trees and things like that. So now we'll go into the demo. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up the web link, and just give me a second while I share a new screen here. Any questions immediately off the bat before we kind of get into the actual grit of everything? No? Okay, great. Let's see. Okay, so here it is. So this is what the link looks like. The website is just DocuSign.com. And in the top corner here, there's a little login button. So you go there, and then you're gonna go ahead and put in your email address. In my case, it's your work email. For pretty much all of us, it'll probably be our work email. Press continue. And then it does use single sign-on, so you're gonna have to use your UCLA single sign-on to get in, which is added security also, so that's kind of a good thing about it. And that's another thing too to mention, that DocuSign is secure. So people do use it like in court sometimes, like court admissible documents, you can use them via DocuSign because it's like considered a secured server. So whereas like PDF that you might use.
I bought my house with DocuSign.
Oh yeah.
I didn't do a single wet signature.
That's awesome. Yeah, so exactly. So people use real legitimate documents through DocuSign. It is like a legit signature. And you'll see here, like if you guys can see, this is my page. This is the landing page, what it looks like, but you get your customized little DocuSign signature like number. And that's how it'll kind of verify that the document is real. Another cool thing about it is after the document has been signed, the default method that you download like the signed completed copy to is PDF. And PDF will not let you edit the document once it's been signed. So it kind of locks it there. So it makes it safe in that way too. Like if it's a contract or something and someone signs it, if someone wanted to download it after the fact and try to go in and change information, it won't let you. So that's kind of cool too. So again, this is what the page looks like. There's, home, templates and reports are kind of what I mentioned earlier. We'll go into those a little later. And then the manage tab. So the manage tab, just so you know, this is gonna have your personal documents first. So inbox is where your personal documents will be. So if anyone's sending you documents in DocuSign, they'll come into your inbox. So that's kind of where you can keep track of your own documents. So under the homepage, action required, waiting for others, expiring soon, and completed. So action required means that something with the document isn't correct. Some sort of action is needed. So in this case, these are two that you know what? Yeah, in these cases, these are two that I sent to myself. So they're action required because I need to sign them. And you can see here under status that I need to sign. But it can also be sometimes like if you open, so after you send a document, you can do something called correcting it. So if you send the document and you realize you made a mistake, you can go back into it and correct it. And while you're correcting, no one can sign it. So if you're in the middle of correcting it and you forget to like save it and send it again, it'll pop up an action required. Like, hey, you haven't finished correcting this document and resending it. Waiting for others is basically just that. You're waiting for someone to sign it. If it's a document you've sent to multiple parties, it could be like 1 out of the 3 or 2 out of the 3. If you've sent it just to one person, it's just waiting for that one person's signature. Expiring soon, this doesn't happen often, but I believe it's 6 months after you send a document. If no one has signed it, it'll fall into this expiring soon category. So you just keep an eye on that. Obviously, if a document falls into there, there's a reason. So chances are either the person hasn't signed it yet, or maybe they printed it off and signed it physically and didn't use DocuSign, whatever it is. But just keep an eye on that, because if it once it falls into the expired soon file, there's a timeline. I want to say it's like a week where it'll sit in that file, and after that, it's automatically deleted. So it kind of does clean up on its own, but just to keep an eye, if you see anything there, make sure you look at it, so make sure it's not important. And then completed, of course, are going to be all the completed documents you've sent. So as you can see, I've sent 148 documents that have been signed and completed. And then again, this is just your signature here. You can either, DocuSign has like they like automate the signature for you. You know, you type it in and you can pick like the style that you like. So you can do that. Or if you have like the ability to actually like draw it out on your computer, if you have like a tablet with like a smart pen or pencil or something, you can also just add your signature that way, whatever your preference is. So sign or get signatures and new. So this is what we're talking about. So send an envelope, sign a document, use a template. So send an envelope is if you're going to send a document to anybody else. You're going to use that send an envelope feature. Sign a document, if you yourself have a document you need to sign, whatever it might be, you can click there and it'll let you upload your own document, let you drop in your own signature, and then save it if you need to email that off to someone or whatever. And then use a template if you need a template and you're going to use it, then you would click that option. So we're going to go over send an envelope because ultimately that is the option that we're going to use most of the time. And then the page looks like this, and you're going to upload, or again, you have the option to upload a document here or use a template. So I'm going to go ahead and upload a document, and I'm just going to upload a blank performance evaluation form because I feel like most of us are pretty familiar with that and what that looks like. So I'm going to upload that. And after you upload it, it'll give you the option here to just kind of view it. So if you want to just make sure like you uploaded the right document or whatever it might be, you can kind of just scroll through and view it there. So now adding recipients to the envelope. So again, this can be one person or multiple people. So in this case, because it's a performance evaluation, let's pretend it was completed and, you know, we need the supervisor, the employee, and the manager to sign it. So in that case, we want to put 3 people. So let's say it's myself, we're going to do Jonah, and we're going to do Lisa, just for the sake of example. Now, when we do this, it's going to send the document to all 3 of us. And then in the document itself, I'll be able to specify which of us need to fill out which areas of the document. Now, you see this option to set a signing order here. So that's kind of helpful if maybe we want to make sure Lisa signs this document first because we want to make sure she reviews it and approves it. And then maybe we want Jonah to sign it and we want me to be the last one to sign it. We can click set a signing order, and then it's going to go ahead and add the order here. So then you just use this little thing to drag and drop into the order you want. So we're going to put Lisa first, Jonah second, and me third. And you'll see sometimes the numbers get a little funky. If they don't change automatically, then you just change them yourself, 2 and 3. So then now they're in order. So basically now how this is going to work is it's going to get sent to everyone, but until Lisa signs it, it won't let Jonah sign. And then until Jonah signs, it won't let me sign. So once everyone above me has signed, then I'll be able to sign, and then the document will be completed. Now I also talked about this feature that you can pick a signer or something else. So need to sign is the most popular option. That basically just means they need to sign the document or fill out any of like the fillable fields you put. In-person signer, you can notate that basically if someone's going to sign it in person. That doesn't happen often, right? If you're using DocuSign, they probably aren't signing in person, but that's an option. Receives a copy. So if you want someone to just receive a copy of this document that you're sending, kind of like a CC in an email, you can choose that option. Needs to view, same idea. If you just want them to view the document and know that it was like sent to X person, you can include that. Allow to edit if you want them to specify the recipient. So in the event that, you know, I need to send this to 3 people, but I'm not sure who the 3 people are, I can include someone to specify the recipient. And basically when it gets to them, they're then going to fill out who the document should go to. And then signs with the notary. Again, if you were notarizing a document for whatever reason, that option is there too. Do note one weird thing about the receives a copy. You want to make sure you set a signing order, and whoever is receiving the copy, make sure you put them as number 1. I don't know why that is, but if you don't set a signing order and you just put receives a copy and then someone else is like needs to sign, the copy person won't get the copy, at least in my experience. So if you put a signing order, put 1, and if we put Lisa wanted to receive a copy, but then me and Jonah needs to sign, that means Lisa's going to get the document first, she's going to get that copy, and then we'll get our signatures afterwards. Again, don't know why that is, but just kind of a little funky thing to keep in mind. So I'm going to take them off just for the sake of brevity, and I'll send it just to myself. And then I'm going to show you guys what that email looks like too, just so you have an idea. And then here is a message to all recipients. So when you send this, again, if it's just one person, then it's one person. But if you're sending the document to multiple people, they're all going to get the same email. So kind of just keep that in mind, especially, you know, if there's something specific you want to tell to person A, but not mention to person B, this would not be the place to put it, because everyone included here above is going to be able to see this. But you can specify the email subject. By default, it just puts please DocuSign and then the name of whatever the document is that you uploaded here. So you can feel free to change that, whatever it is. And then here you can just add a personalized message. I usually just put hello, you know, attached is X document. Please add your signatures. Let me know if there's any questions. And then in case you have the more option here, you can add a private message. So if there is something, again, if you have 3 signers, but you do want to say something specific to person A, but not to person B and C, you can add a private message individually to the to one of the persons you list here. And then there are advanced options. Again, I don't really ever use these, but there are, like, you know, again, incomplete envelopes expire 120 days after sent. Recipients are warned 0 days before the request expires. So if you wanted to update that, if you wanted to automatically have a recipient be warned about, you know, their document expiring, you can do that in advanced options. A bunch of stuff here you can kind of play with if you need it. In my experience, I've never needed an advanced option, but they are there if you need them. So we're going to click next. I'm not going to put anything here, but in theory you could. You do have to also, if you notice, the email subject is required, but the email message is not. So up to you. We're going to press, oh, you know what? I'm actually going to change this just to Jonah for now, because I forgot, because it's my account. If I put myself here, then when I go to the next page, it's just going to let me sign it then and there. So we don't want to do that. That'll be not good for example. So this is what it looks like once you go here. And then these are all of the fields that you have the option to choose from. So signature is just that, a signature. Initial is an initial. Date signed is basically the date is automated by when the signature is filled. So if you use the signature field and you then use the date signed field next to it, whenever the signer goes in and clicks and adds their signature, it's going to automatically fill the date signed field. So that's kind of a good way to prevent like back signing if you don't, or backdating rather, if you don't want someone to backdate a document or anything, you can use this feature. The system is going to automatically add the date for them. Name, email, company, title, these are all kind of automatic fields that like will specify, oh, put your name here, put your email here, put your company here, put your title here. But a text box kind of works in the same way. So we could definitely put like the name thing here and it'll say full name. But we can also just put a text box here because it says employee name, right? So they're going to kind of already know to put their name here. It's just a matter of preference. They both work the same way. It's just going to have them fill in this area. And then check boxes. So if there's an area like here where we want a check box, we can just add them here and it'll let them check off as needed. Oh, sorry. We can add those there, like in that area, like that. A drop down is if you want to have a drop down selection and you're able to add the options over here on the right. So add option, we can put like yes, and then we can add no. And basically those are the options they're going to see when they have a drop down. So if this was like a question, you know, did you review all of the above contents? Yes or no. And it'll just give them the option to select one. And you can add as many options as you want in the drop down field. So you can use that wherever it's relevant. And then radio. So radio is very similar to checkbox. The difference is that it'll only allow you to select one of these boxes. So checkbox, for example, if you put 2 checkboxes here, it will let the signer check both of these if they want to because they're checkboxes. But radio, it'll only let them select one. So if you want to make sure that they only select one option, then I would recommend using this radio option rather than checkbox. And you see it kind of ties them together because it's only going to let them select one. If you need more than one, you can pop up the little plus sign, add a third one, so on and so forth, and you can just add them. So if this was like a questionnaire and it was one of those where it specifies like select one, I'd recommend using radio because it'll physically limit the person from selecting more than one. If it doesn't really matter or they can select more than one, then checkbox will be the better way to go. Payment item, if there was some sort of, we won't use this, or I've personally never used this, but there is an option to collect payment. So if this was like an application and it had an application fee or something, you can add the option to collect payment, and it links with like a couple different online payment methods, and you can add payment that way. This isn't a feature we even have turned on. If you see, if I drop it here, it'll say here, contact your DocuSign admin to enable this feature. So this isn't a feature we have, but it is something that DocuSign offers where it's applicable. And then there's formulas, attachments, notes. Those are just kind of like, you can put a formula into this if you wanted to, automate a field. Attachments, if you wanted to add an attachment to the document itself, you can use that feature. If you wanted to add like a note, maybe an area is a little complicated and you want to add some more explanation as to what you want in that field, you can add a note there. And then approve and decline is just basically they'll click approve or they'll click decline. Again, if those are ever relevant for you to need them. So when I add a field here, you'll see, so we'll go to like text box here. Another thing is if you're using text box, you want to make sure that you make the text box as large as the line. Now that's important because in DocuSign, unfortunately, it will limit the amount of text based on the size of the text box. So if I made the text box this big, it will only let me put as many letters that fill into here. So I generally just tend to make it as large as the line. Granted, chances are the person's name isn't that long, but it's better to have too much space than not enough. And then up here is what I was talking about with the required field option. Where you can check it or not check it. So you'll see if I uncheck it, it ends up being white. And basically that means it'll show this box to the signer, but it's not gonna make them fill anything out in order to move on to the next field. It's kind of optional. So if there's a field where, I don't know, let's say again, if this was like a survey and we gave them the option to include their phone number, you can leave it white like that because it's something that they can fill out, but they don't need to. In this case, because we want everything filled out, we would put required field. And basically that means it'll make them put something in this box before they can move to the next one and the next one, so on and so forth. Read only. Now, if you wanted to fill out the information for them, that's where you would use the read only option. So you'd uncheck required fields, you'd select read only, and then you can write into the text box here and it'll actually add it for you. And then basically what that's going to do is when the signer's reviewing this document, they're just going to be able to read it. They're not going to be able to edit this field. They're not going to be able to do anything to it. It's already there. So if you wanted to fill out some of this information for them, you could do that. You just add the text box, check off required field, add read only, and then you would just fill in the information yourself. So I personally use that feature sometimes at the bottom of a performance evaluation when I ask for the name and the title. I'll usually use that feature to fill it in myself. That way the supervisor and the manager doesn't need to, and it's already there and all they have to do is add their signature. So I drop the signature field here, and again, scale it to size, because if you have it this big, the signature will come out that big. And then again, date signed. And that's going to automate whenever they press sign on this and add their little signature, that's when the date signed will automate. If for some reason you wanted a very specific date on this document and didn't want it to be automated as to whenever it was that they actually signed it, I'd recommend just using a text box and just dropping that in there, and then they can just fill in an actual date themselves. Now I'm going to go back really briefly, and I'm going to add a second recipient. That's what it looks like when there's only one recipient. I'm going to go ahead and add a second one just to show you what that looks like. You'll see too, when I'm typing these names, they're automatically generating for me. That's because I've used these people in DocuSign before. So it does remember names and email addresses, so it'll let you kind of just click onto it. But if you're brand new getting started, or if it's someone you've never sent it before, you want to make sure you fill out their full name and their email. So again, same document, but you'll notice now that it gives you the option to, actually let's do text box, to select who needs to fill out this field. So before there was not a drop-down menu here because there was only one person. Now there's a drop-down here because we have two people to choose from. So you need to select who's gonna fill out this field. So if Joan is gonna fill out this field, I would leave her checked. But if Lisa needed to fill out this field, I would select Lisa. And you'll see that the color of the box changed. And that's because this is specified to her So this is helpful a lot, like in signatures. Again, when I mentioned if you need like all 3 signatures on this, we're gonna pop in this signature and this date signed, and we're gonna make sure the color matches with Jonah. And keep in mind, you need to change that color for every field. So this one, any field that you're dropping in here, you wanna make sure the color matches with the person. Like for example, if I change this to Lisa, that means this would be Jonah's signature, the date automated by when Jonah signed, but Lisa would be prompted to fill out this area. So that's kind of just something to be careful with if you have multiple people on the document. Just make sure all the colors match. And then signature, date signed, right? And then we talked about name. And then because this is manager, now I'm gonna click through each of them and change them. So click on it, go to this drop down and change the person. And again, you can do this for 4 or 5. Sometimes, again, if I'm sending this to an employee, then this would be the 3rd option, and I'd select whoever that is, and then color code them. And that would be so that way they can sign and date that. Again, another example kind of when you would use the optional text, employee comments, right? Maybe they want to write a comment, maybe they don't. So I'll fill up the text box here, but I'll just uncheck required field. But you do notice that even here, you can see very faintly, there is like an outline of yellow here. So even something like this that's not a required field, you still want to make sure you assign it accordingly. So if this was, if Jonah was the employee in this case and I wanted to give her the option to fill out this, I'd still make sure she was the recipient for that area, but I would just uncheck required. Basically, that'll let her fill it out if she wants to, but it won't require her to. And that's kind of what that looks like. And again, check again something like this because it's we don't want them to select more than one option. This would be a good use of like radio because it will force them to only use one. And then we would just add, drag another one, add, drag another one, so on and so forth. So okay, whatever, once you have all the fields in the document that you want to add, I'm gonna just go back really quick and take off. And see here too, if you notice, I had assigned this recipient some fields, so it's giving me a message like, hey, if you delete the recipient, it's going to delete those fields. That's fine. Everything's in place, and then you would just press send in the corner here, and it's going to send the document via DocuSign, and it's going to basically come to where Jonah would need to fill out these fields here. So I'm going to show you now what it looks like when they actually get the document. So I'm going to go ahead and change the recipient to myself. That way instead of sending it, right, because it's myself, it's just going to give me the option to fill it out then and there. So you guys can kind of get the idea of what that looks like. So we're just going to drop to the bottom here. And it automated myself as the, oh, actually, no, it didn't. It automated myself up here. You'll see that I'm the recipient automatically just because there's only one person. So delete these fields. Okay, so let's say that's all I needed to fill out. We're gonna press send. And then because it's my document, it's giving me the option to sign it now. So I'll click sign it now. But in theory, if you were sending this to someone else, they'd get the email, it allowed them to click into it. And then this is kind of what they would get. And this is what the website would look like when they came into it. So give them the option to continue and revise the document. And then it manages the start. It gives me the option to kind of review everything. Going through, I'm reviewing all of my things. Okay, here's those fields I talked about, radio. So I have to select one. Again, see, it's only letting me select one, so that's a good option. Okay, and you'll see it's marked red because it's a required field. And then we're gonna drop down here, and again, signature. You'll see if I go to try to click finish, it's bringing me up here and saying I need to sign. So again, it won't let me finish. So then I'll click sign because I already have a signature like on file with DocuSign. It just automatically added that. If you're sending this to someone that's new to DocuSign, it'll give them the option to kind of select a signature there. And then we click finish. And then I can sign another document that I have on file, but we're not going to do that right now. It'll also, if the person does not have a DocuSign account after they sign the form, it'll give them the option to create an account if they want to do that. That way they have kind of an online source of where all the documents can be saved. And then now if I go to my inbox, which I mentioned before, that's kind of where all my personal documents are stored, it's there. And it shows completed, so I can click into it. And this is like a completed signed version. It shows me when it was signed, the time, the date. And then here I have the option to either print it or I can download it. This option is kind of weird. So it gives you the option to download a document as a PDF. There's like a certificate of completion that they can separate if you want it separate. I personally just always could combine all files into one. And basically what that's going to give you is just one single PDF that has everything you need. So I just downloaded that, and this is what it looks like. And you'll see here it added this DocuSign envelope. I'm up at the top, and that's like personalized to this document. And then it kind of gives me this notice, signatures are signed and valid. And if I scroll all the way to the bottom, there's my little signature and the date. And then up here is like the option that I selected. And then you can, use that document. Oh, actually, I guess you guys couldn't see that. Hold on. Let me reshare that. Give me 1 second. My apologies, guys. I forgot that DocuSign only lets you, Zoom only lets you share one screen at a time. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. So then once I download the document, this is what it looks like. And you'll see up here, it says that all signatures are signed and valid. It has a unique DocuSign ID number, like I mentioned. And then if I scroll down, it'll have the areas that I filled out. So there's the radio box I selected. And there's the signature I added, the date, all of that. And then from here, you can email this accordingly or whatever that would be. And that's what that looks like. So now let me go back to the DocuSign website and show you guys a few other things. Do we have any questions as of right now? No? Okay, cool. If you guys change your mind, let me know. Again, you can send it in the chat also.
Tirzah.
Yes.
Let's say we have a document, a form that needs to be completed by 20 people.
Sorry, so you know what? Hold on, Luis. Give me 1 second. I'm having a little trouble hearing you. Let me try to plug in my headphones and see if that is better. Okay, can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, say that again one more time. I'm sorry.
Okay, let's say we have a document or a form that needs to be completed by 20 people.
Mm-hmm.
But those 20 people on top where it says name, it will change. Can you then send that form to those 20 people and put the number 1 on each of those names so that, oh wait, no.
No, so that example, that would be a good use of a template. So if it's one document, but it needs to individually go to 20 people, that would be a good option to use a template. So I'll kind of walk you through template in a second and show you what it looks like. But for an envelope, if you're adding more than one recipient, you have to just keep in mind that it's for that exact same document, that specific copy of that document. So if I put 2 recipients, they're going to sign the exact same document. So when I get it back, it's going to have both of their signatures on that same document. They're not going to be 2 separate ones. If you needed them to individually sign, but the same document, that's where you would either use a template or you would need to send them individually.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So since you mentioned that, we'll kind of go into templates just briefly. Again, you have to have this feature enabled, so you guys won't have this automatically. You have the option to go to new here and kind of create a template, but for the sake of time, I've already made the template. And then basically you can automate the fields. So if for some reason you know that this document is always going to need 3 signers, like if it was a performance evaluation, for example, that would not be a good way to use a template, obviously, because the information is going to change for every person. But in theory, let's say all of them were always exactly the same and you know they're always going to have 3 signatures needed, you can automate the number of fields. So you can automate that there will always be 3 signers on this document, and then it'll just let you specify who those people are. You can edit it also. So I'll kind of show you, I just made like a makeshift questionnaire here. And I just add name, date of birth, home address, phone number, work, email, work phone number, all of these questions, right? So basically what I did is I went in and I dropped like the fillable name field here, and I dropped a text box here and a text box here and a text box here and a company name here. And I put a drop down and I put yes or no here, a drop down yes or no here. I made this a text box, but with optional because, right, if yes, list it. again, I put a drop down here with yes or no, made this optional. A drop down here, yes or no, made this optional. And basically DocuSign is keeping that. This means that whoever I send this to, it's going to look exactly the same. The drop downs, the fillable boxes, everything is going to stay the same. So then when I go to send this, I'm going to click use. And then because I specified that this has to go to 3 people, it's now going to have me add those 3 names, and then I can press send. And it's just going to send that document that I showed you in the previous screen with the fields already saved, whether they're required or not required, etc. If it was just one person, if you know this document, like Luis in your example, if this was just going to go to one person, but it needs to go to that one person 20 different times, I would just remove like 2 of these signers. And I would just put the person's name and email and then press send. So for example, let's put myself here so you guys can see what that looks like. And we're going to press send. And I can sign now. And then you'll see that it has the template saved already. And like I mentioned, these are all areas that I had filled out already. And it basically remembered those and saved them here so that I can fill them out already. And again, and I can use this same template and I can send it to Luis and I can send it to Lisa and I can send it to Robin and Kimberly, and it will keep all of these fields exactly the same. So basically all this did is it saved me the work of needing to go to, create an envelope, upload a new document, and then drop all of these fields in and then send it and then do the same process over again because, this document is the same and I need to send it to the same exact document to 20 different people. By using a template, you save yourself the trouble of having to create 20 individual envelopes and, add 20 fields to each of add the fields to 20 different documents that are virtually the same. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So in that case, you send it to yourself only.
Yes.
What happens if you add signers 2 and 3? Let's say you put me and then Roberto. Each of us will have the same email sent to us at the same time, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And then we'll each get the option to sign whatever field that is. Yeah.
Can we see that? Oh.
Unfortunately, there's no way for me to show it just because I can only access myself. Yeah, I don't. Let me try to add. Oh, you know what? Because I removed. Give me 1 second. Let's see if I can. Let me try to add myself, but a different email address, and we'll see how that looks. That way I can kind of show you guys. So I'll put myself here with my work address. And then I'll add myself again, but we're going to do a personal one here. Okay. We'll remove this, and we're going to press send. Oh, oops. I'm going to press sign later because we already know what that looks like when I send it. And then give me a second to open up my email and I'll show you guys what that looks like. While I'm doing that, are there any preliminary questions? We're pretty much done here. I'm just going to show you guys a couple of other little cool reporting features, but that's basically it. In terms of how to use DocuSign. Again, like I mentioned, templates and things like that, there are some more in-depth ways you can use it, but at least personally from my over a year of experience using DocuSign, I've never really used any of the more in-depth features. I pretty much just tend to send envelopes. Signing order is probably about the most difficult or in-depth that I've used. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so let me share my screen with you so I can show you guys what this looks like. So I got the email and this is what it looks like. So it says, Tirzah Nuno sent you a document to review and sign. And it shows, Tirzah Nuno, please DocuSign template 1, thank you. And then obviously it's signed by myself because I sent it. So then we would click review document. And then let me reshare the new screen. And it looks like this. So it gives you so this is what it looks like if you were getting a document from me. It says, please read in the electric record and signature disclosure. I agree to use this. I press continue. And then Oh, for whatever reason, this didn't save the fields. That's interesting. Okay, well, I have to figure out why that happened. In theory, this should have saved the fields that I sent to myself. I don't know why it didn't. Obviously now is not the time or place to figure it out, but you'll see it gives me the option to add a signature here. So it automatically generated like this style, or again, I have the option to draw my signature if I wanted to, or I can upload an existing one. We'll just select this one, we'll press adopt and sign, and then it's adding my signature there. So it looks like it's letting me add the fields myself and fill them out, but I know there is a way to make sure the field is already there when you send it. So I kind of play around with that, Luis. We can have another like meeting offline if this is something you'll think you'll use regularly, and I'll figure out why it didn't forward those fields along. But it's giving me the option to add them here, and kind of fill them out myself, which I mean, still works, just not.
It probably doesn't think of you as Tirzah, because the Tirzah it was sent to was the one with your regular address.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good point, probably. So yeah, but that's what it would look like. Basically, you'll see that the document is exactly the same as the one I got through my work email. But here it's just giving me the option to add the fields myself. But yeah, so that's what that would look like if you sent it to multiple people. And yeah, let me go back to the main DocuSign screen really quickly and show you guys.
Tirzah, you might have said this already, but where do we get permission to be a DocuSigner person?
So IT does it. So I believe Vincent and San are both the document administrators. So in your case, Lisa, you could just send them an email and let them know. My understanding is that ENT has a license, and so they can assign individual license at will. I don't think there's like a limit on those or anything. So you would just contact them. If you're like a regular employee, such as myself, let your supervisor know you want access, and I think they can reach out to IT on your behalf and get you an account. Okay, let me share my screen with you guys really quickly. Okay, back on here. And then again, reports is just kind of something I touched on briefly. So it shows like how much events and transportation has saved. So we've saved half a trash can or 32 pounds of waste, 467 pounds of CO2, which is the total of 2 fridges, 586 gallons of water, 199 pounds of wood. You get the idea. And then it kind of gives some metrics for me specifically. I can select over the last month or 12 months. And it'll kind of go over like how many documents have been completed, how many sent to myself, delivered, corrected, declined, voided. So like in the last month, 15 documents have been completed. 83% completion rate on the documents I send. Envelope velocity, so basically how much time it takes people to sign documents. So you'll see like less than 1 hour, 3, 1 to 6 hours, 4, 2 to 7 days, 5, and then just a different kind of graph of like the volume. Obviously like the valleys here are like the weekends I don't really send them, but then in the week there's like different spikes as to how many envelopes I'm sending on like a given day. So just some kind of cool data there if you like to look at that or need that for any reason. And that's basically it. Again, I mentioned completed documents here, and this will show all the ones I've completed. The only other thing I didn't touch on really quickly is how I mentioned if a document hasn't been signed yet, even after you send it. So that's under waiting for others, right? So if I go to waiting for others, you'll see there's personally like 2 documents here that need to be signed. So I could just click resend here, and that's basically going to resend the same document, the same original email I crafted to the recipient again, kind of just as a gentle nudge, like, hey, you still haven't signed this document yet. Also, if for some reason I realized, oh no, I made a mistake, I can click correct here and it'll let me go in and correct the document. If for some reason you don't need this anymore, say in this case, the employee turned this document in a different way, I can just click void or I can delete it. And that'll basically just delete it from my account. And if I void it, it'll make me write a reason. And I would just write a little explanation as to like, this document was already completed elsewhere. And that'll get it out of your inbox so that you don't have it under waiting for others. And that's basically everything, I think. Is there any other questions? Is there anything that I forgot to touch on that you guys are like, wait, how do we do this, or anything like that? No? Okay, Great. Well, like I said, I recorded this session so I can, I'll share it in our Teams group. If you guys are in that DADR Teams group, I'll share it there. I believe the only person that's not in that group that's on this call is Robert. So Robert, I'll email this to you if you'd like to have it to just kind of review it at a later time. And again, if you guys have any more questions, kind of like Luis offline, if you want to have those, we can definitely do that. If you have questions about templates or reporting, or, you know, there are some small caveats. Like I worked with Sarah a couple months back because there was a document we needed to sign and like 2 people needed to receive a copy, and then 1 person needed to like view it before the other person signed it. And sometimes if you have a lot of recipients that each have a different role they need to play, it can get a little tricky sometimes managing those, and sometimes like the signing order does make a difference as to who's going to get what at what time, things like that. So if you need help with that, let me know. You can just send me a Teams message or an email, and I'm happy to like get on a Zoom and I can walk you through anything. You can also just send me like screenshots if you come across a problem. I've had people do that too. Like, hey, I'm getting this weird error message. What does it mean? I guess over time I've become the resident expert of DocuSign. It is pretty intuitive, and I think the more you guys use it, you'll see that it is really easy to use and really like user friendly. But thank you all for coming. Thank you for your time and attention. And I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Tirzah.
Tirzah.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Of course, everyone, take care.